I got you. It's always something with this mic. Am I right? What is up, Finn fans? I do apologize for yesterday's video. The webcam. So I have my nice camera, and the next one I have my webcam. Trust me. Start a channel. Have all this silly fandangled equipment. Do it all by yourself, and things are going to happen. But yes, I thought, why not make fun of it in the beginning? We have some things to talk about. Obviously, Calais Campbell has signed with the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to talk about that. That actually does help the Miami Dolphins out a little bit because we get a comp pick, and I'll explain to you how that happened. And then I'm going to talk about the new rule changes. There's a lot to address. But first, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of the matter. Calais Campbell yesterday signed back with the Arizona Cardinals where he started his career. It was a 1-year, $5.5 million contract with the potential to gain another $2 million, getting up to $7.5 million. Good for Calais Campbell. I'm not even going to sit here and be like, oh, Calais Campbell couldn't come back to Miami, poo head. What a stinky poo head. Good for Calais Campbell. Go back to where you started, man. End your career with the Cardinals. Cool. I'm fine with that. Dolphins gave him like $2 million contract last year. He's getting a potential $7.5 million contract this year. Cool. Now, there's some things that I want to talk about. First, let's talk about the comp pick, because you might be like, how did we gain a comp pick? Because we weren't going to get a comp pick. And this is how we gained a comp pick. Before Calais Campbell signed his $5.5 million contract, James Daniels' contract of about $8 million negated Javon Hollins. Don't ask me how. Don't do it. Just don't. I don't know. But with Calais Campbell signing with the Cardinals, Javon Hollins' contract is giving us a potential 4th round comp pick. So potentially next year, the Miami Dolphins will have 2 4s. They'll have 1-1, 2-2, 1-2, 2-1-3, 2 4s, 1-5, 1-6, 1-7. But they'll have 2 4s. So that's how that's happening. Calais Campbell signing, pushed up, Javon Holland, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But Barry Jackson came out and he had something to say, which I thought was very interesting. So he talks about the fact of Calais Campbell signing with the Cardinals. The Dolphins wanted Calais Campbell back. Coach McDaniel said Monday the sides have been in contact. He was a very important player to the team last year, and I see him having the opportunity to be a very important player on this on the team this year, he said. But Campbell instead opted to return to the team that drafted him, where he spent the first 9 years of career. Campbell posted on his social media what a story it would be. Start my career with a bang. Now it's time to finish it with a bang. Back home where it first began. Again, congrats to him. Couldn't be more happy, excited, all those good things. So now we get into a situation where the Dolphins, and if you guys remember, I'll try to pull up the footage if I can find it. If it's not popped in, then I couldn't find it, or it was just like, just go back and watch it. I think it was like 2 videos ago, I was talking about don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't go chasing Calais Campbell. Love him. I think he's great. I would love to have him back, but don't go out there and, wait. Because if that's the situation, the Dolphins, again, they have no one on the defensive line. Now you're going to a draft that's very deep, right? You have Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, you have Derek Harmon, you have Walter Nolan, you have all of these guys that you can get in the first, you got guys you can get in the second. It's a deep defensive line draft. There's also free agents out there that they could get, right? The most established player still unsigned is Darius Smith. Then you have DeMarcus Walker. You have Jonathan Bullard. You have Fatasku. I'll butcher his name. The Dolphins have opportunities to go out there and get players. And I'm hoping they're not doing a situation where we'll see what happens in the draft and we'll go from there. Because, again, you're putting it off. For Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel, after they should have been fired, came out that Monday after, and had a presser and said, we're going to double down on the offensive line, and we're going to really focus on the trenches, and trenches are important, and this is, they aren't. They really aren't. And if it's a cap situation, and if it's a we have no money situation, which it could be, they have roughly around $16.5 million in cap space, and you're screwed. You're screwed. There's no way going into the season with what the Dolphins have right now. You have no left guard, and your potential plug-in left guard as of today is Liam Eichenberg. Again, you got to hope and pray you can draft a guard or tackle converted to guard in this draft, and that's not a guarantee because you might miss out on somebody. I remember the Dolphins tried to trade up in front of New Orleans to grab a offensive lineman. I think it was the Tua draft, and they couldn't. So then they ended up trading down and getting Noah Benogany, or they stayed pat and took Austin Jackson. I think that's what it was. They were trying to trade up to get Tristan Wirfs, and they couldn't. Again, the teams and the positions, but I remember they tried to trade up, they couldn't. So then they stayed pat and they reached for Austin Jackson. It might be another situation. You can't, and then don't reach. See, you're setting yourself up for failure by going into the draft without going BPA. And that's why going and taking players with need can hurt you. And I'm going to make a whole video talking about this, because obviously this is draft month and we're going to be talking a lot of draft, but there a lot, you take a quarterback every draft. You got to take a quarterback every draft. All right, cool. I'm pretty sure the Falcons like Michael Penix Jr., but I'm pretty sure there was guys taking after him that they would trade him in a heartbeat to take. That's the thing. Like, okay, yeah, you take a quarterback until you find the one, but you miss out on a lot of talent. That's why I'm very against needs in the draft. You got to take need. You got to take need. You got to take need. You take BPA, unless it's like, wide receiver. We don't need BPA at wide receiver, but we need BPA at corner, defensive line, safety, offensive lineman. So they're in a situation now where they got to figure it out, because this defense, the trenches are just abysmal to me. Not abysmal. I'm happy with Brewer and James Daniels and Austin Jackson. There's a big fat question mark at left tackle. But the defensive line, 27th in sacks. The team is 27th in sacks. I don't even know what the defensive line was. You got Zach Sealer, who deserves a contract extension. And outside of that, you got no one. And you got to hope and pray you can find 3 starters. You need depth. You need a rotation. You can't find 2 starters, because then, injuries happen, third downs, and you got to rotate, and you got to find at least 3 more starters. They've won. So we'll see how that all pans out. But let's talk about the rule changes. What rules have been thrown out there and have been thrown away, have been accepted, and have been tabled. Now, tabled means they'll talk about them again in May when they come back together. The one that has been tabled that a lot of people are talking about is the tush push. This says the most controversial proposal on the docket Tuesday was tabled by the league after a lot of discussion. NFL owners decided to delay the vote to possibly eliminate the tush push. A number of coaches and executives gave their thoughts on the play at the meeting. While a vote was supposed to take place Tuesday, the league decided to push the decision down the road. My thoughts on the tush push is, if you're allowed to push the quarterback, hence it calling the tush push, it should go the other way. The defensive players should be allowed to push their guy as well. But then that's where injuries happen. So it's a slippery slope. The NFL expands use of replay assistance. The second rule change of the 2025 season involves which penalties can be subjected to replay review. Under the new policy, hit on a defenseless receiver, grabbing the face mask, performing a horse collar, tripping, and running into or roughing the kicker can be reviewed. That proposal came with a catch, however. Those penalties can only be reviewed if officials throw a flag on that play. If a coach believes the flag was not warranted, he can challenge and potentially have the penalty overturned. In cases where no flag is thrown by an official on a play, coaches will not be able to challenge it. So essentially, if there was a face mask call and you look and he like grabbed him here, or he didn't even touch his face mask and the guy's head just turned, you could challenge it if the penalty has been called. If roughing the kicker, or hit on a defenseless receiver, or horse collar, tripping, all that stuff. But a flag has to be thrown. NFL introduces Hawkeye cameras to measure first downs. The NFL announced it will utilize Sony Hawkeye cameras to measure first downs in 2025. The camera will effectively replace the on-field chain gain measurement of crucial plays. The league will use 8x cameras to track ball position on the field. The league stated the entire measurement process will take roughly 30 seconds, which saves roughly 40 seconds compared to the manual chain gain. Touchbacks are now on the 35-yard line. So if you kick it out of the end zone, it's to the 35 instead of the 30. A lot of people are thinking, this is going to force teams to kick it more in the safe zone for them to run it out. So there is that. Lions' defensive penalty proposal was failed. So essentially the Lions proposed that instead of it being an automatic first down on defensive holding, it would just be the 5 yards on illegal contact. They were like, nope, no thank you. Lions also wild card seeding proposal was tabled, and essentially what that is it's you go by I was gonna say ranking. You go by your record. So if an 8-9 AFC South team or NFC South team wins their division, a 12-4 wildcard team doesn't travel to them. It goes the other way around. So they're trying to really, give people with teams with a better record more of an incentive to do their best. Whereas, some of these teams, like I remember it was Seattle versus the Saints, and Seattle was like an 8-9 team and they beat the Saints. They played at home. Very interesting. A proposal that would allow teams, the free agency Steeler proposal passes. So now teams during the tampering period, teams can talk to the player. It used to just be during the tampering period, the GMs and everyone could only talk to the agents, and then the agents were relayed to the players and vice versa, blah, blah, blah. Now the players can talk to their potential new teams or GMs or all that other stuff. So a lot of different things added. The overtime rule also changed for the regular season. Under the overtime rules in the postseason, the period's 15 minutes long. Both teams get a guaranteed possession, even if the team that gets the ball first scores a touchdown. Both teams will now be guaranteed a possession during overtime in the regular season, but the overtime period will only be 10 minutes. So that is a big one that will help certain teams, which would affect games like the Dolphins-Jets game, where Dolphins marched down the field and scored a touchdown with a Tua to Jonnu Smith pass. And in that case, then all of a sudden, the Jets would get a try. So it's going to be interesting. Very interesting. But they will obviously vote on the tush push. They will vote on the playoff seeding, and they will vote on some other things. But overall today, Dolphins lose out on Calais Campbell. He goes back to the Arizona Cardinals. They do have a potential 4th-round comp pick now with Javon Holland, and a ton of rule changes. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I got a video tomorrow talking about an unsung hero that is in the Miami Dolphins organization that I've talked about a lot. I've mentioned this individual a lot, especially when it comes to contracts. So if you've been following me for a while and you hear me talk about a certain somebody when it comes to contracts, and I love how he structures contracts and yada, yada, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. Because again, this ain't new for me to praise this man, but I'm going to talk about an unsung hero in the front office. But other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. Like usual, stay classy. Fins out.